friends, and welcome back to the Neurodiverging Podcast. I'm so happy you're here today. My name's Danielle Sullivan, and I'm your host. Today, we have a beautiful interview with ADHDer and CEO Annie Martineau. Annie is the CEO of NeuroSolutions Group. She's ADHD herself, late identified, and she has neurodivergent kiddos. So we are talking a lot today about what it was like for her to grow up as an undiagnosed ADHD girl in Canada, and then what it was like to become a parent and a single parent to neurodivergent kids and two different kids with two different kinds of brains. We had a lot to talk about there. And then we get into what it was like to start her business, where she finds her strengths as an ADHD brain in running a business and what her ADHD has sort of offered her in terms of the creativity and the framing and the fun of running a business. Before we talk to Annie, I just want to give, as always, a big thank you to my patrons. They support this podcast by giving a monthly donation. They allow us to run the transcriptions, keep the website up, and keep me running the podcast. So thank you so much to all of you. If you are interested in becoming a patron, we would love to have you. You can learn more at patreon.com/neurodiverging, or just go to neurodiverging.com and click around for a little bit. And one quick announcement right before we pop into Annie's interview is that if you are interested in joining us for webinars, classes, coaching programs, we now have a calendar for the first quarter of the year up and available at neurodiverging.com/upcoming events. Upcoming events is all one word, and you can learn about all the educational opportunities we'll have on offer and all of the group coaching classes we'll have on offer as well. We would love to see you in some of them. Again, that's neurodiverging.com/upcoming events. Now, without further ado, let's talk to Annie. Welcome to Neurodiverging, Annie. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to talk with you today.
I'm excited too. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Thank you so much for being with us. So I know we're going to talk to you today. You're a parent with ADHD and you're raising a child who's neurodivergent. Would you like to start off by telling us a little bit about your ADHD journey? You were late identified, right?
Yeah. Actually, it pretty much started in elementary school, but back then I was born in the 70s, so the Ritalin was not that much of I don't know. This is not the way it happened. This is not the way we were getting diagnosed. The first thing my parents got, the first triggers that my parents had is that I was always in the principal's office. So that's how it all started, because I was so hyperactive. I do have I've got a super H in the ADHD field. So that's how it all started. I had good grades. I was doing really good at school, but it was, I'd say, a little boring. And I didn't have enough on my hands to keep me occupied. So I was constantly talking. And so basically in elementary school, I was always trying to focus on my grades because they were really good. And whenever I'd had a forecast of my grades, I'd go to my parents and say, hey, I've got A's everywhere. And then my father would be like, yeah, but you've got an E in behavior. And I was like, yeah, but I've got A's in this French or mathematics. Let's focus on that. But it didn't work that way, apparently. So so that's how it started. And my father was in the military. We were in Europe back then, so we didn't have good access to doctors, and it was really difficult, really hard. So you can say I was a late. I had a late assessment in during senior high school, obviously. But still I didn't know from the very young age that I needed to, my brain was not working as everybody else's was. I've always envisioned my brain as a computer with lots of screens that are open, and I can manage them as and for somebody else, or it can be a file. Back in the 80s, it was files. I had lots of files that were constantly open, and I didn't mind, but people weren't. I realized from a very young age that people weren't working that way. So that was my journey.
It sounds like you experienced a good amount of judgment around your kind of behaviors when you were younger, right? With your dad, and then being in the office a lot. What were some of the things that folks were noticing or what were you being picked out for? Was it just like running
For
around fidgeting, or was it other stuff?
fidgeting a lot, talking,
Mhm.
interacting with other kids when it wasn't the proper time. I mean, fidgeting, of course, was a huge one. Always moving. I always had
Mhm.
to move, and I'm still. COVID was a huge thing for me because of the fact that we weren't even going from home to an office, which
Mhm.
was the minimum moving around that I needed. But anyways, that's another topic. But yeah, so yeah, because as I've mentioned, I did have good grades, so grades were not the issue. My
Mhm.
understanding wasn't the issue. It was mainly my behavior. I think at some points it got to not annoy the other kids, but it certainly wasn't helpful for them to have me sitting right next to them. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that were the main things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard to hear about kiddos when they're younger feeling like judged or feeling like they're being pulled out because they don't feel the same as everybody else, or they don't act the same or behave the same, even
Yeah.
when they're good kids who are doing well in other ways and are just not getting the support. Yeah.
That's one thing though that I didn't get like bullied or
Hmm.
for the like from the other kids. I had a great, I think it was great. I had a sense of humor.
Hmm.
I did focus on that as a huge strength on my end, but it was mainly the adults that were couldn't keep up with me. Like
Hmm.
they didn't want me to be moving all the time, but
Hmm.
other kids they didn't really mind. And there was this teacher, I think I was in grade second. Yeah, Clovis. His name was Clovis. He had a huge impact in my development as a child because he focused on my strength. He decided to use me as a leader instead of a positive leader instead of a negative one. So he gave me full of responsibilities in the class and helping the other kids and that had difficulties. So he helped me manage that superpower, that
Ah.
neurodiverse superpower. So that was really helpful. As I've mentioned back in the days, Ritalin or medication was not that common. So
Hmm.
we did have at a very young age, we did have to develop other strategies.
Yeah.
So, and you did have to manage your superpower. I always talk about my ADHD as a superpower, but
Yeah.
as any superpower, you have to learn to manage it.
Yes, use it responsibly. How
Absolutely.
now that you're an adult and with a family of your own, how do you think you being ADHD, what are some of the superpowers that you use day to day with your kiddos and your business and your family?
Multitasking
That's a
is
big one.
certainly one of them. That's a huge one. But I'd say the most helpful one is helping my kids get through their own journey.
Mhm.
I was having this conversation with my son the other day, and I was telling him how his challenges are not the one he thinks he's going to have as an adult.
Mhm.
Um, we were trying about somewhere, and that was a really fun conversation. But we were talking about him being in an apartment, living on his own, etc. And he was trying to, well, not trying, but he was telling me, I'm going to be able to do it. And I was so impressed by his statement,
Mhm.
this is going to happen, mom. And I was like, wow, of course it's going to happen
Mhm.
if you want it to. But his explanations are, he was trying to convince me that he was going to be able to clean the fridge
Mhm.
or know when to do the dishes or things like that, which are
Mhm.
really concrete. And I was telling him, your challenge as an adult is not being able to learn or to, because this is going to be the easy part. You're going to be able to learn how to do stuff
Mhm.
which you already know, or even if you own something or anyways, but the hard part is going to know how to motivate yourself to
Yeah.
do so even when you don't want to do it. So
Mhm.
that's the biggest challenge I've had as an adult, is that procrastination
Mm-hmm.
is like something that's always in the corner of my mind. But once you get to motivate yourself, it's such an accomplishment to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do so. But that's the hardest part. So to get back to your question, because I got, like, went that way.
Oh no,
Let's
you
go back
did
that way.
beautifully.
So your question, my challenge, not my challenges, but the strength I have or I use as an adult. Multitasking is one. Being an entrepreneur, being able to not only multitask, but like have different folders in my head that are open, being able to talk to customers while managing HRs or doing partnerships or not wanting or being able to function in in being outside of my comfort zone is
Mm-hmm.
where I do shine when I'm not in that zone. I do not like comfort zone, but and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people do, but so that's one of the strengths I've developed. And my humor has been there forever. I think it's a huge part of who I am. It's a huge part of how I interact with people. Um, that has a huge part of me dealing with emotions, and so yeah, these are a few strengths that I've managed and I've developed through my journey as an ADHD woman. But it's certainly that's and the active part too, being, I mean, I it's something that I've learned, being able to sit down and not do anything,
Mm-hmm.
but it can last like for 10 minutes max, because
Yeah.
otherwise my brain is going to start functioning like crazy. But yeah, so these are the few strengths that I've worked on and that have helped me in my adulthood, for sure.
Yeah. How do you manage hyperactivity as an adult? Do you just keep yourself busy and go from one folder to the next folder? Or
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
okay.
I honestly, I don't know how I manage it, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not time consuming, but it takes a lot of energy to do so. At the end of certain, like, I mean, for example, in a day, I can go through like super great news, and that they will overwhelm me, but I have to manage this feeling, because otherwise everyone's going to think I'm crazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
do manage it. As I'm talking to you right now, there's so many stuff that I'd like to say that wants to come out of my head,
Mm-hmm.
but I do manage what's coming out of my mouth and the words that
Mm-hmm.
I choose. But it is something that I've learned to do. And to be quite honest, I don't know how I do it, but I certainly do that I'm good at it,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise people would be like not be able to follow me.
Yeah. It's hard when there's multiple tracks sort of going in your brain and they could all spill out at once,
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
limit it to one track.
and it's something that I notice in ADHD people, more than ASD, but people with autism. But
Mm-hmm.
for ADHD, it is impulsivity and like talking a lot
Mm-hmm.
is something that's more common. And I do see it in friends of mine or people I know that they are not conscious of the not the feedback, but the impact that it has
Mm-hmm.
on their relationship. Because you have to be able to realize that this is exhausting. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're talking all the time and if you're talking really quick and you've got up and downs while you're talking, it is exhausting for the person that's listening to you. So hopefully when I listen to that podcast, I won't feel that way about myself.
No, I don't think you will. Because I can say as an autistic person, um, I'm often trying to listen to a lot of words coming into my brain and figure out, okay, what are these that I have to act on? Which of these are just information? Which of these are just like interesting things the person wants to say, but I don't really need to like keep it in my memory.
Remember?
And it's a lot of processing for me. And so I sort of, it's interesting that we're on different sides. And I know that I have that impulsive chatty streak sometimes where I'm just like, but it is really important to, like you're saying, think about the other person's piece
Perspective.
of the conversation too. Like, what
Yeah,
is the goal of the conversation? Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks.
absolutely. And I think it's a hard path to be able to go to get there, but
Mhm.
it's certainly worth it because we are always asking, but not always, but more and more often asking neuroatypical person to um, kind of accommodate, or I don't know, but it's a relationships imply two persons, right?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
both of them have to be able to know what the other person's like or get, so it's a learning experience that everybody has got to do. And that's one thing that I hope I've taught my children, but pay attention to the person you're talking to and be able to not only hear,
Hmm.
but see, feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way of communicating, because speaking then comes in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I think your point is really strong about it does take two people to form a relationship, at least two people to form a relationship. And you need to be able to work together to really collaborate to um, support each other on a kind of basic level. So it's really important.
Absolutely. And yeah, so but still for some people it's harder.
Mhm.
Um and I certainly think it's a skill that can be developed over time. And but yeah, you've got at a certain point of your life, just you choose certain battles and you realize which ones you want to, and you
Mhm.
choose the one that motivates you, and that so they become challenges and they become victories or challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. There's so many skills that you could learn over the course of your life, but nobody's going to ever be able to learn all of them. So you might as well focus on the ones that are going to be the most helpful for you. And yeah.
Yeah, or the most motivates you.
Hmm.
If Because if it doesn't motivate you, you're not
Never
going to
going to
put the
do it.
effort in it. Exactly. It's
Exactly.
not going to work. That's not the right battle.
Yeah. So how do you apply this to like your kiddos are of different neurotypes, right? You have like multi neurotypes in your family. How do you use sort of that strength-based philosophy to help them overcome their challenges?
Well, after the first thing, it's never been an issue being neurodiverse.
Hmm.
It's always been you're different, so what? Me too.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are your strengths? And let's focus on them. And
Hmm.
that's the one thing I've always said, that we all have weaknesses. So it's your job as you grow old to make people see your strengths, not
Hmm.
your weaknesses, because otherwise everybody's going to point out what you don't do or what you can do. But bottom line, we all have things that we can do and won't do.
Hmm.
So it's just harder. Um, it's harder, and they need help and they need support. They need people. And I was talking to a teacher the other day. It's like teachers don't realize the impact they have on children with neurodevelopmental disorders.
Hmm.
It can change the whole situation between having a good self-esteem, bad self-esteem, being a leader, positive leader, or
Hmm.
a negative leader. But yeah, so neurodiversity for me, I've mentioned it before, is a superpower. So how are you going to use it?
Yeah.
I can teach you, I can show you how I managed it, but you have to find your own path. My children have to find their own solutions in
Hmm.
order, and their own strategies in order to make their strengths shine. Because organization for if I may have an example here, what, as a parent, why do you want your kids to do their beds in the morning?
Mhm.
Is it because it makes them a better child if they do? Does it?
I don't have
Or
my children make their beds because I don't think it's a worthwhile use of our time, but that's my own.
but if it's important,
Mhm.
for you as a parent, then
Yes, then you
show
prioritize
them,
it. Mhm.
or show them that it's not you're doing your bed because it's nice to make people happy.
Yeah.
I'll do something for me that makes me happy. I'll do
Mhm.
something for you that will
Mhm.
make you happy. It's like sharing. But bottom line, yeah, I did meet a, a mother once that told me about how she was having a difficult routine
Mhm.
in the morning with her daughter, and she said, yeah, how do you make your son do his bed in the morning? And I said exactly the same thing
Yeah.
as you. I don't know. I do not.
Mhm.
That's not a battle that I choose. But I said, if you want to choose that battle, well, then just show him another way, because that way you've been trying to teach her is not working, obviously.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but
You have to be really
yeah.
flexible and really, at least in our house, I always try to be like, um, well, like you said, strengths based, but also values based. So like, why are we doing the bed? Is it really like core to who we are as a family? Or is it just a random thing that I think I'm supposed to do? Because I don't like to teach my kids to just do what they think they're supposed to do. I like them to have a reason to do it, um, which maybe overcomplicates our lives, but also really helps us narrow down like exactly where our
Totally
motivation
hear you.
is. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
It does bring other challenges
Mhm.
to be to go down that road. Um, and sometimes I do choose not to understand why, because it's just I'm not the type of person that needs to understand everything in
Mhm.
order to be completely satisfied.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, for my husband, some certain things are really important for him, and they're
Mhm.
not important for me at all.
Yeah.
But I know how much they are important
Mhm.
for him, so I make the effort in order for him to rec I mean, for him to be able to say thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate it, and I appreciate doing that for him.
Mhm.
So yeah, so these are values: being a nice person,
Mhm.
being sharing, so not doing things because you're asked to do. And I don't think neurodivergent people are made to be that obedient, or to follow these type of rules, because
Yeah.
obviously down the line we all gonna say, I'm not doing it."
We have to make our own rules. Yeah. We have to
Yeah.
know why to, well, at least I can speak for myself that as an autistic person, I like to know why I'm doing the thing. Like if you're asking me to do the thing, I'll do it if it pleases you. But I also want to know like what's the goal? Like why do we do the thing, you know? And if you can't answer me, then I might choose not to do it. you know. So
But
yeah.
I mean, with that, that's a nice conversation. um if I'd say, I mean, like the example of I don't know, the making the bed in the morning, if I'm telling you this is really important for me, would
Mhm.
that be enough of a explanation for
Yeah.
you, or no? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
I
have an
think
explanation. Yeah.
yeah, it just needs to be because I would be in this theoretical space motivated
Yeah.
by trying to be your friend, right? Or trying to be in community with you. And so my motivation, and that's all the answer I need, because my motivation is my value of you as my friend, right? If it's some
I
random
understand.
person on the street who says make your bed or else, then no, I'm not
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
do it because
Yeah.
there's no internal
Why?
motivation to like make
Yeah.
that person happy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. But
I hear you. It's really interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
So
I
no,
like
it
thinking
if
about
he
that
if
stuff. So.
yeah, and if so basically, to people that are listening, if your child does make his bed or her bed in the
Mhm.
morning, doesn't mean it's she's or he's not a good kid.
Yeah,
Not at
no,
all.
no, not
Not
even
at
a
all.
little bit. I
No,
there's
not at all.
there could be so many reasons not to make your bed. Like I can come up with
Yeah.
10 off the top of my head
Yeah.
as an autistic person to not make my bed in the morning. So Do you think that you have adjusted your parenting strategies like for your different children because of their neurotypes being different? Or do you think it's more because of like their personalities or their general approaches to life?
I don't think so. And I can tell you one particular conversation I had with my daughter
Mm-hmm.
um last summer. That was really that like kind of real made me realize how good of a job I think I've made
Yeah.
about my children not noticing what differences are there anyway. So and yeah, she did volunteering
Mm-hmm.
with autistic adults, and she basically realized that some of their social skills, or um the way they were speaking
Mm-hmm.
or the way they were looking at her or not looking at her, was a lot like her brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And she just came to me and said, I've always thought that this was just William,
Mm-hmm.
her brother, like.
Yeah.
And then I realized these are like, oh, these are kind of difficulties or like differences that that autistic people have. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh yeah, but still it was William,
Yeah.
it's William. So we all have our particularities. I don't think I've adapted my parenting style.
Mm-hmm.
I did have an impact though on my husband's style,
Mm-hmm.
that I can tell. He was more of a quiet person, didn't like any noises. I had kids. I decided to have kids because I'm a kid
Mm-hmm.
myself, and I wanted to have an excuse to continue being a kid for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I
so
feel
that
that
being
very much.
said, uh, why would we have to grow? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Anyways,
Always
or
keep
why?
playing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Why would I want to stop playing? Anyways, so yeah, I did bring that into my husband's life. I did divorce when my kids were little, so
Mm-hmm.
my husband now is not the father of my children, but he's been involved with them since my daughter was 1, so it's
Mm-hmm.
basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But he was so at the opposite. I mean, and he was so really strict and did like noises, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, that's life.
Mm-hmm.
And I at the and it was a work in progress. That's, I think, the adaptation that I did, or we have done as a family, is that at the beginning we were all respecting his quiet zone,
Mm-hmm.
but then at certain point we made compromise to like let go of some things that he didn't like so that we could feel more. And it's still, I mean, it's still a work in progress. We
Yeah.
still as a family learn how to compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's one thing that we did as a team, because I always say we're a team. I'd say noise was a huge part of our journey as parents and
Yeah.
as a family.
Mm-hmm.
As much as William, that has a ASD, didn't like noise or sound noise, like loud noises,
I feel that.
he
Yeah.
he can be really loud. He
Mm-hmm.
can be like really, really loud. But yeah, so, and from my hyperactivity, and yeah, I mean, our style, I think, evolved with our different skills or different,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I'd say that, but different needs.
Yeah.
And so they've evolved. And so whenever we are in the car, and well, they're teenagers now, but they're more quiet, more often on their phones.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't mind the noise as much, and we play outside, and we have found a really good balance on trying to everybody to fit in the team. That's
Yeah.
what a team does.
That cooperation piece. I can say that
Yeah.
as an autistic and an adult, I am still plenty loud when I'm stimming or when I'm excited, but I also don't like surprise noises at all. Like I'm the kind of person where people constantly laugh at me because I startle because they've come up behind me and I haven't heard them. My son, who's autistic, is also like very loud and also does not like surprise noises. And so the noise piece is something that we've really all had to collaborate on and make specific rules around and make like help each other sort of assess and set boundaries around what's the best way to handle that? Because we should be allowed to stim. We should not be allowed to like yell in people's ears, right? What's the balance? So
Balance.
yeah.
And that's one thing I didn't think about, but yeah, rules
Mhm.
really help us like manage like our different needs, because we were 5 people in the family, and each one of, I mean, it's not because you have it diagnosed that you're more important than the other ones.
Oh no.
Everybody's got needs. So what are the things that you really don't like?
Mhm.
And yes, do, because otherwise you cannot think that someone understands your need if you haven't mentioned them. You cannot
Exactly.
think, you
Thank you.
cannot think, oh no, you should know that by now. No, you never told me so.
Mhm.
So there's no, I should have known that by now. I mean, like, and that helps. That type of rules
Mhm.
are, I won't say contract, but understanding, saying, okay, that's how we do things, and this, and explaining, saying we do so because this person here doesn't like that,
Yeah.
and we like that, and we love that
Mhm.
person, so we don't want her to be in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
That's a good point that you've mentioned. That's certainly something that has helped. Yeah,
Yeah. And really having that conversation around what's a need versus a preference versus a would like, but not a big
yeah,
deal, like all
yeah,
those little variations, at least in our house, make a big
yeah,
difference. Because some things are painful to
absolutely.
me and some things I just don't like. And so I'm
Yeah,
willing to be collaborative on the just don't like. But if I'm in pain, I'm gonna need to set a hard line around that, right? So, and it's the same for every other member of my family. I'm not special in that. So yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But I mean, you're the best person to know yourself. So
exactly.
you're the best person to tell them what are your zones. Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm really angry, or I'm feeling bad, or I'm feeling sad, or, I mean, we're the best ones to tell other people's around how we feel.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it's a
Yeah,
good thing to teach our kids to do that. Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we're at more of a stage that we hope we've done a great job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it certainly sounds like you have.
Yeah, yeah, they're great. They're great kids. They'll always be
Yeah.
kids to me, but
Oh, I
yeah,
know. I know.
it's
I
really
mean,
impressive. It's really impressive having a nerd. I mean, we're in 2022. There are some consciousness about
mm,
uh, being neurodivergent, and people are more open about neurodivergence. But as I've mentioned, when I was young, it was just hyperactivity. She's a
yeah.
kid. She needs to move a lot. And so and now we're more aware of challenges and difficulties. And it's really something to see your child, whatever child, but your child, going from an elementary student with a lot of issues, a lot of difficulties, emotion situation, or
Mhm.
interactions, having difficulties with interaction, and seeing your child that's become such a amazing person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my emotional moment.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
that, or do you have a sense of what was different for you in that transition to independence, like way back when, not way back, sorry, that was rude. But the
Okay.
transition to independence, when I was thinking more like, it was a couple decades ago, and the knowledge of neurodiversity and especially ADHD in women was like not really there yet, versus now your kiddo kind of moving towards independence as an adult with autism. Are there more supports
Um,
in place, less? Like what do you notice most?
oh, situations are so different. I lost my
Yeah.
mother when I was 12.
Hmm.
So I had a big brother, but and my father, but they were, I mean, I basically stepped up as a mother role at
Yeah.
12-year-old. So by 16, I decided I'd had enough, and
Hmm.
I wanted a life on my own. So I
Yeah.
moved out at
Yeah.
16. So the it's a completely different situation. I think I'm the one that has to manage the transition, because
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same with your children, but I feel like I've had so much to give, so much to share, so much that I didn't want him or her to go through, or I mean, good or bad.
Yeah.
And it's just that I don't know. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to sound dramatic, but I'm just like, what am I gonna do when he grows old or she
Hmm.
grows old and they don't need me anymore?
Hmm. Yeah. They'll
I mean,
always
they
need
treat.
you.
Yeah. I know
If it
I'm being
helps.
dramatic, but I
No,
mean,
no, no.
it's just that line, a fine
Hmm.
line. It happens. It happens so quickly. I
Hmm.
mean, and I just don't know what the trigger was. But at some point, two of my children had intervention, guidance at school and
Hmm.
plans, and they needed
Yeah.
um, like really strong help from educators, special educators,
Hmm.
and something happened down the road, like slowly but surely, that made them not have like the. I don't consider like I don't consider them having a handicap
Hmm.
or a difference. It's
Hmm.
just so amazing the way that they've become champions of their person.
Yeah.
I'll say that way. So, um, yeah. So, sorry, I forgot the question.
That's okay.
Totally forgot the question.
It sounds like they're a lot like you with that championship kind of mentality that
Uh,
I'm gonna do it how I want to do it and get to where I need to be. That's
yeah. I
fantastic.
mean, yeah, they can. Oh, yeah. I remember the question. How do you manage like that transition? And
Yeah.
yeah, I mainly think the issue is on my hand, not on
Mhm.
their hand. They're like,
They're ready.
oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
ready. They're ready. Mm,
When they were
absolutely.
younger, do you remember, did you think that they would get here? Or did you have concerns that they would be able to live
Oh my God.
independently?
I'll my daughter for sure. I
Mhm.
mean, she's strong-willed and perseverant, and she's really resilient. As for my son, like the system didn't help
Yeah.
because when he had his diagnosed after trying to commit suicide, the
Mhm.
autistic, the ASD diagnosis, and if I would have listened to the doctors and the psychiatrists and the psychologists that were helping him or helping us, I don't think it would have been a good idea to just listen to them,
Mhm.
because he wasn't supposed to be able to self-regulate. He wasn't able to be able to function without medication. He
Mhm.
was supposed to become an anxious person.
Mhm.
He was supposed to not be able to drive, function at school, go to college.
Yeah.
So these are all, and that's something I remind my daughter of, because we do talk about the expectations I had
Yeah.
when like, or not the expectations, but how I envision their futures,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, is the huge, no, not the, but a huge problem, is
Mhm.
that don't listen, let them show you what they're capable of, because bottom line, we're the only person that will determine what we want to do and what we want to achieve. And who is a doctor to tell you that your son or your daughter is not going to be able to do that kind of stuff, or is going to have that difficulty for the rest of his life?
Mhm.
Or I think that was a huge, not problem because I didn't listen, but I think that can have a
Potential.
huge impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can have a huge impact, because as a parent, if you believe something,
Mhm.
if you believe that your child is not going to be able to achieve that step, he's never going to be able to do so because you
Mhm.
don't believe in him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I think can have a huge impact on the development of a child. That's for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't listen.
I really appreciate you being so transparent about that, because I work as a parent coach, so I talk to parents, and a lot of them have very young children who have just been diagnosed. And parents can be very, it's understandable. Parents are really concerned about their children's potential well-being as an adult. Like, they'll become an adult, and what if they can't do things? It's hard to have to say, you need to trust your child. You need to give your child the credit that they are capable and they can do things, and they might need support, and they might need
Mm,
all these interventions or whatever, but mostly they need a parent behind them that knows that,
absolutely.
that can give them that, not push them, but give them that leverage, or that grounding.
Leverage. Yeah,
Yeah.
leverage is a good word, or just support. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we've all been kids.
Hmm.
We've all gone through tough stuff,
Hmm.
and we've all gone through good stuff. And yeah, so it's life, and that's what makes it so beautiful. It's that it's so diverse. So please let your children go through life. Do not try to save them for a living, because it's part of the whole experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. Very much agree. Thank you.
But
That's
I know
lovely.
it's hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard as a
Yeah.
parent to be able to let go and say, "Oh my God, he doesn't realize how dangerous this is." But hey, trust him.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
Mm.
hard, but it's worth it. I
Yeah.
do believe it's worth it,
Yeah.
but it's hard.
You have to let them step out and take some risks.
Yeah,
Or, I always am like, well, do you want an adult who has never taken a risk, or do you want the child to take a risk where you're there to help them out?
it's a really good argument.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
But yeah, I am a big fan of letting kids not like take unreasonable risks, but stretch, right? That
turn.
um we don't want them to be stressed past capacity, but we also do want to just encourage them to stretch their boundaries just a little bit at a time, so that they feel confident and can handle the world, because they can handle the world. They just need the right resources.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome,
That's
Annie.
a great thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna like turn us a little bit, because I want to make sure we have time to talk about your business and what you do. Um, you are, well, you should tell me, you are in technology for neurodivergent folks and families.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about kind of your journey and what prompted you to get into this place as an entrepreneur?
Well, I've mentioned at the beginning of our discussion
Mhm.
how ADHD is helping me with my entrepreneurial journey. Not having a routine, being able to do all kind of tasks and all
Mhm.
kind of meeting all kind of people. That sure is a good fit for me. I got in. Well, I wasn't always an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
because at a certain level in my life, I was a single mom,
Mhm.
and I needed to focus on my children, and with art and the assessments and the appointments, all
Oh
the
yes.
appointments that we had. Yeah. So entrepreneurship was not on the planning back then. But at certain point in my life, I William was really interested in Mario Bros.
Mhm.
And I've always liked video games. From like I was playing the NES, the first Nintendo console, when I was in elementary school,
Mhm.
and I just always thought it was a great communication tool,
Yeah.
which is different from what's happening today with the video gaming industry. But I've always I've always had so much fun playing video games with my family, with my friends. So I decided to go in the video gaming industry and understand what was all what was all what was it about video gaming that was so fun
Yeah.
because it is fun. I'm not talking about Call of Duty or that type of games, but Mario Bros, Mario Party, Raymond's. I mean, all these
My kiddos
really
are
fun.
Minecraft, just super Minecrafters. Minecraft
Minecraft.
and Fall Guys are their current favorites. They're really cute,
My,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, my son is back into Minecraft at
Mhm.
19-year-old. So it's a really
It never
interesting
gets
video
old.
game. No, no, exactly. Um, but I was really interested in understanding why it was so much fun. So I decided to go in the video gaming industry, met a lot of people, and then that's when William got hospitalized and
Mhm.
had his ASD diagnosis. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to know, I wanted to learn, I wanted to be able to help him.
Mhm.
I've always been a solution oriented person.
Yeah.
So, okay, what can we do now? Like, okay, here are the diagnoses. Okay. What can I do? Like,
Mhm.
like the ADHD side of me said, like, what can I do? How can I be helpful?
Mhm.
So I've talked to researchers, and I started reading.
Mhm.
And I wanted to understand. I started meeting with families, and so it started as a personal project. And I realized that I was becoming, I'll say, police officer at home.
Yeah.
And as I've told you before, I've had kids because I wanted to be able to stay a kid, or have fun. So
Yeah.
I was not having fun in my parental journey,
Mhm.
and I completely saw that my son was not having fun in his childhood.
Yeah.
So I mean, the trigger with William, because he was the inspiration, like, for this whole journey. At one point, I just tapped on his shoulder and I said, William, and I saw his shoulder go down.
Mhm.
He was expecting me to say something bad,
Yeah.
and I was about to tell him that I was proud of him.
Mhm.
Sorry, but
You're okay.
then that's exactly the trigger that I realized I need to tell him how much of a champion he is,
Mhm.
because everybody keeps saying, you're not doing that, you're not doing that, you should do this like that, you forgot that.
Mhm.
And I saw myself as a kid, and I remembered how that didn't help, and how positive reinforcement was fuel for me.
Mhm.
So I decided to sit down with him and tell him how I felt and
Mhm.
listen to how he felt. So I told him exactly what I'm telling you right now. I do not have fun. I do not want that to continue that way.
Mhm.
How do you feel? And he said, well, you're like a back vocal. I was like, okay.
Very, very straightforward. Good
Oh,
information to have.
very straightforward. I was like, okay. He said, well, you keep repeating stuff and I basically don't hear you.
Mhm.
Oh, well, I don't want to, that's not the role I want in
Mhm.
your life. So So he asked me at the very beginning, asked me, okay, I have a solution, Mom. Please allow video games whenever I want, and that will solve every problem.
Mhm.
So I said, no. Nice try. No. Um, but that's how it started. So I said, okay, you've got a point. You want to be able to have fun during critical and boring time.
Mhm.
I agree with that. I want to have fun too, because obviously everyone's going to be winning that situation. So we started as the Mario Bros idea because he wanted to play video games. And I said, well, okay, we're going to create a Mario Bros in which parents and children are going to have interventions and help
Mhm.
in order to be able to learn about themselves. So we've developed Keros, which is an app that provides parental guidance, pulling triggers at parents saying, hey, you need to tell your kid right now that he's a champion.
Yeah.
Or do you realize that he's done that type of thing today and it's his first time?
Mm-hmm.
Please celebrate. That's a type of cues we wanted to bring.
Mm-hmm.
And for the children, we use avatars in order to motivate them to do boring stuff. So yes, like brushing their teeth or cleaning their cleaning their room.
Mm-hmm.
But we did bring avatars on both hands, children and parents, because we both need to work on certain aspects of our role, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's children role in the family or parenting role. So yeah, and that's been like a great journey. We did develop the application with healthcare professionals and psychoeducators in order to be able to help kids with ADHD, but kids with ASD as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I've created NeuroSolutions Group 5 years ago. So we've just celebrated our 5 years time mark.
Congratulations.
And yes,
That's a big landmark.
yes, it was. We were really happy about that. The 5 years hit. It's like, I don't know, we've hit like we've it was just a statistic challenge, but we won.
Yeah.
We won that
That's a
5
big
years.
deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So William, my son, like, and even my daughter, they've been involved in the progress of not only the product but the company.
Mm-hmm.
They've supported the families during clinical studies. They've done testing of the app, QA of the app. Of course, they had an impact in the development of the game, the avatars. So it's been a really nice journey, helping a lot of families, getting to speak with a lot of families. And that's my favorite part, what I'm doing right now, when I sit down and I realize how far we've been as a family. It's simply amazing and I don't do that as often as I should, but being able to realize I've done a great job as a mom. I have great kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really proud of what they've become. But yeah, so this is my favorite moment. But I get to remember, and I get to sit and rewind a little and say, hey, it's been tough. It's been really, really tough. But I wouldn't change a thing in the world.
Yeah. I love so much about that story, Annie. Thank you for sharing it. I love that you saw that it wasn't working for you, and you went in and you said, okay, what can we radically change so that we can both have fun? And I also love getting your kids involved so you have a project together. So you're all building something together. I mean, talk about skill building, but also that collaborative communication building, like we were talking about in a different context before. Like, you did all that in this project. That's amazing.
It's been so, I mean, the first clinical study we did, it was with 10 families.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to kind of do a role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
So we dressed up like agents, super agent, and we decided we told a story to the kids that were part of our clinical study, that they had been recruited as special agents, and they had a special mission. And we still do focus groups with kids. It's amazing the impact we can have just by asking someone, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this? I want your opinion. I need your opinion. You're gonna help me.
Mm-hmm.
And having someone like children, having that kind of like pride, it's amazing. That's worth a lot, because they do want to participate, and they do want us to ask them, how are you?
Oh, yes.
What you think matters to me, I want to do something for you,
Hmm.
but help me achieve that goal.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And that always works.
Yeah.
Always.
I
Yeah.
think kids, I was thinking about what much earlier you were talking about that teacher that you had when you were young who gave you jobs, right? And
Yeah.
I think kids always want to support, they always want to collaborate with you. They just need a way to do it. They need an and you need to be very welcoming of that. And then it works, right? If you're welcoming and they know how to support, like it's beautiful what can happen and how much confidence they can get from that.
Absolutely. It's and it can be, I mean, we're all parents and we all have our issues and
Mhm.
stress, and it can be hard sometimes to just not to be welcoming to
Yeah.
for the help, because they want to help, but maybe it won't go as fast as you want it to go,
Mhm.
or they won't get dressed as fast as you want them to, but still it's worth it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great.
It's the same. My parental journey has a lot to do with my entrepreneurial journey.
Mhm.
I mean, we do collaborate with families. I never wanted to develop like an app in my basement saying, "Hey, I know what to do." I never worked that way. I've always wanted to collaborate with families, children, psychiatrists, doctors. Doctors are not more important than children.
Mhm.
Actually, doctors right now, that's another topic, but they're assessing and they're managing treatment plans
Mhm.
without even knowing what's happening at home or how the kid is feeling. They have
Yeah.
15 minutes every 6 months to go, how are you?
Yeah.
That's it. There, here's your prescription.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hard to see, but anyways, that's another subject.
No, I
But
don't think you're wrong. I think that, but the point I think you're making, right, is that they might be a piece of the whole
they
uh
have to.
puzzle, but they're definitely not maybe the people with the most information or the most authority about what individuals on the ground need and families on the ground need.
They
Yeah.
don't know that information. All they
Hmm.
have, as I've mentioned, is that 15 minutes. So if we want to collaborate, we all need to share the information, and we all need to question the
Hmm.
person, whether it's the parent, the child, etc. So yeah.
Yeah. So with Kairos and with the games that you've made, are there specific, you talked about the positive reinforcement piece and the getting kids and parents on board in the same way kind of piece. Are there specific habits that you're trying to help families build together? Or how is it? Tell me more about it. How is it targeted?
Well, actually, it's the first thing. The app's gotta has to be downloaded from each one of the stores.
Hmm.
The parent creates an account. He configures a specific routine to
Okay.
that is reflecting his needs as a parent and as a
Hmm.
kid's parent. He can do it with the child, which is even better, but then he chooses what he wants to address. Whenever there's and we can find these tasks or these actions during specific period of time. So
Okay.
let's say for a morning routine, and then whenever that routine comes along, then the child gets notified, and he can get interaction with his avatar
Hmm.
to realize the actions that are needed. And that's the only way to gain a progression in the video game. So
Hmm.
it's related to superpowers in the video game. So the kind of team up, the avatar and the child team up in order to be able to realize missions in the real life
Yeah.
and missions in the video game. So if they don't do one, or we do not encourage that's one thing that's important. We the algorithms um request 75%
Hmm.
of success, because we do not want to encourage perfection but effort.
The progress.
um
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
the progress. So yeah, so that's kind of and then whenever that's accomplished, he will get the superpower needed for his avatar to get access, like a super glue to climb on walls, or double jump, or super strength, or etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it works. And kids get to personalize or customize their avatars, their
Mhm.
HQ, to create that kind of comfort zone that either looks like them or not at all. And they can opt to have like a dinosaur as
Mhm.
an avatar, or a girl, or a boy, or
Mhm.
a unicorn.
Mhm.
So they decided to what they want to do with that avatar. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And what age range is it most sort of targeted for?
it's mainly for 6 to 12
Mhm.
years of age. It depends on does depend on the video game interest of the child,
Yeah.
because if a child is playing Call of Duty, he won't have any interest in Keros. So it's mostly like the most impact we do have is on kids between 6 and 9. That's
Mhm.
our target range. But we've used it in our clinical studies. We've used it up to children with 12 years of age.
Mhm.
So it depends. Like anything, it's one of the tools that are out there available. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah,
So, but it
it
does
can
work.
be a good
And
fit.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And if the one other question I had was I talked to I talked to lots of parents about screen use. Our family's pretty
Strict.
chill about
Oh,
screens.
sorry.
Like we kind of think we're homeschoolers, and I think
Mhm.
that technology is a part of, this is my personal opinion, that technology is a part of our, existence day to day, and it's important for kids to kind of learn how to engage with it
Manage
in
it.
a way that's
Hmm.
reasonable for them, and that's different for each kid. But I do talk to a lot of especially parents of autistic youth, I would say more
Hmm.
than ADHD, but I'm sure it happens in ADHD families too, who are concerned that their kids are like stuck on the screen or having trouble motivating to do things other than screen or that kind of thing. And I wonder if, as somebody who's worked in this space for a long time with your kids being a little older, do you have any kind of feedback on um, how to either modulate that or get over that feeling of concern around around
In
screens?
in Keras, we do
Yeah.
have, in our parental guide, we
Mhm.
do have a section regarding screen management solutions and techniques and tricks. But I have the same. My position is the same as yours. I mean, it's in our lives, and we need to be, we as parents or as
Mhm.
person, we need to be able to manage that tool in our lives. And yes, we do have, and kids, I don't think it's going anywhere, technology.
Mhm.
I don't think it's there for a year or two. So we better teach them how to be able to manage it. We did include um factors, triggers in Keros that will teach and help the kid to realize that, hey, this is for a 10-minute period.
Mhm.
We'll see. We've used time management. So basically,
Yeah.
the theme that we use is that we use a time machine that needs to recharge itself
Mhm.
every day. So kids can't play more than once a day. They
Mhm.
need the time machine to recharge before. So the interactions with the avatar help the kid understand that from the very beginning of the
Mhm.
onboarding. So that was really important for us. Um, but yeah, I've always said that we need to pray by the example.
Yeah.
Um, we do not have phones at the table. We do
Mhm.
not bring our cell phones in our bedroom. We do not, I mean, as parents, we do have a responsibility to teach our kids how to use technology.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we did want to integrate a few mechanics in Keros, but that's one thing. I'm not going to try a parent that doesn't allow technology in their house. I'm not going to try to convince them that Keros is going to work, because
Oh yeah.
obviously it's not going to work.
Mhm.
So that's not, when I was talking about choosing your battles, that's not a battle I choose to. Nope, 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 nope.
Oh yeah. Well, and if the parent's stressed out about it, then it doesn't matter how good the game is, it's not going to support the family, right? But
Oh,
if a parent is sort of like open to it, but concerned about screen use, it also sounds like there's built-in kind of limits where this game is
exactly.
supporting, but it's not like getting kids stuck.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's one level per day that the
Mhm.
kids can play, and it's about a 10-minute session in which he gets to interact and customize his avatar.
Mhm.
But it's one level per day. There's no way he can redo the same level. There's
Mhm.
no way he can do another level. These are really strict mechanics that we've included in Keros because
Yeah.
we didn't want to create another drama for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Can you tell the audience who might be interested a little bit more about where to find out more about Keros and you and your company and all?
Absolutely. So our website for Keros is Keros, www.kerosgame.com. So it's as the Greek god, Kairos, game.com. And you'll find all the information about NeuroSolutions Group as well, the company behind the app. And yeah, so if you have any comments or any concerns about the clinical studies we've realized, or I'll be more than happy to answer your concerns, and you can reach out to us by using the emails on the website.
Thank you so much, Annie. And folks, all those links will be down in the show notes, so please check them out. They'll be on the website and also on your app wherever you're listening to this, in the show notes there. Oh, Annie, do you have anything else you'd like to kind of leave us off with today?
Well, I had a great time. As I've mentioned, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's always a pleasure sharing. To all the families there, if you do want to, if you're listening to Danielle's podcast, and you want to try Keros, feel free to reach out to us. We will give you a promo code so that you can use it for 3 months for free, and make sure that it's a fit for your family and that it can help you like it did for our family as well.
Thank you so much, Annie. And you'll also be, supporting a small company that's women owned and run and neurodivergent owned and run, which is important. So
It is important.
beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
Thank you so much for being with me on the Neurodiverging Podcast today. I really enjoyed this conversation with Annie, and I hope you did too. If you are interested in learning more about Kairos and her other products out of NeuroSolutions Group, please check out the links below. We will have all the information there. Please also check out neurodiverging.com for the transcript and lots of other information about how to learn more about all of our guests. And I hope you'll come back for the next episode. Please remember, we are all in this together.